Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a very exciting video because I'm wrapping up my 2020 Pan Those Eyeshadows project. So I'm going to speak about where I was with all of my previous eyeshadows from the last update now for the finale, as well as go through my stats, including my pan percentages, how many pans I made this year and everything like that. So before we jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. But let's just start talking about the eyeshadows that I had in for the last month. So also I am back now in my old setup. We have moved away from the Christmas tree because we are now in January. The video that went up yesterday was pre-filmed, which is why it was still in that location, but I'm back now in my old filming spot. So yes, but let's just move into the eyeshadows, and as always I'm going to talk about them in the order of which has been in here for the longest. And the one that's been in here the longest now has been in for 3 months, and that is an eyeshadow from Makeup Geek in the shade Pegasus. So Pegasus is this absolutely stunning kind of turquoisey aqua blue. As you can see, it's just super reflective and I absolutely love this. It hasn't been the most appropriate this time of year, but I still really enjoyed wearing it over the last 3 months. And I'm going to insert as always the picture of where I was with this eyeshadow last update, and I'm really happy to say that this is where I am now. So I was able to pan, as you can see there, and it only actually took 2 additional uses because as many people said in my last update, I have a massive dip, or had a massive dip going in this eyeshadow, and I was able to hit that pan. So like I said, I used it an additional 2 times over the last month, which meant a total usage of 14 before hitting pan. As we are in the finale, I won't actually roll in any replacement for this shade. I will start fresh in my introduction, which is going up in 2 days on the 4th. So you will see all of the new shades there. But this, like I said, it's been a stunning shade to work on, and I've really been enjoying it. And I do have a few looks to share with you, not too many at the kind of end of this section, so I'm going to talk about that later on. So let's move on to the next eyeshadow instead, and this is one that has been in here for 2 months now, and that comes from my Mint To Be palette from Colourpop. The shade I was working on in here is called Seltzer, and again this is where I was last month. I haven't been reaching for this shade too much over the last month, so this is where I'm now. I only actually reached for this an additional 2 times, which is not great. It just hasn't been a shade that I wanted to focus on, and as we came to an end of this project, I just knew that I wouldn't be able to hit the pan on this, so I kind of focused my efforts on other eyeshadows instead. And yeah, it's not, I think you can kind of see that as a theme in my usage this month, that I haven't used my eyeshadows as much as I normally do. But like I said, I think that is because we were in the last month of the year, and there were just certain shades in here that I knew that I wouldn't hit pan on, so I just kind of used them every now and then, but not kind of force myself to reach for them, if that makes sense. But like I said, I reached for this additional 2 times for a total usage of 6, and honestly you can't really see any dip at all. It's this shade right here. I mean, you can see a little bit of usage, but that is basically it. It is a beautiful shade, and it went really well with this turquoise shade, as you can see. And I do actually think that I have both the looks that I've reached for this shade later that I'm going to talk about, so you will see both of them. And I did actually wear this eyeshadow on New Year's Eve as well. It was included in my kind of smoky green blue eye, which I also will have a look of later on. So that is that eyeshadow. I did not take pan on it, but honestly I wasn't expecting to do so either. So the remaining 3 eyeshadows have all been in here since last update, so they've only been in for a month, and I'm just going to go in the order that I have them in my list. So the next eyeshadow that I have comes from the Through My Eyes palette from Colourpop again, and the shade that I was working on is called Davina. I will insert the picture where I was last month when I first rolled this in, and I have reached for this shade a few times over the last month. I have reached for it 6 times, and that is where I am now. I'm not sure you will actually be able to see any uses on this eyeshadow. I can see a slight bit of kind of disturbance, I guess, in the pan, but it's not much uses at all. And like I said, I did actually reach for it 6 times as well. So these eyeshadows, the mask from Colourpop, take such a long time to hit pan on, and again I wasn't really expecting to hit pan on this shade. But these kind of dark browny maroon shades like this one is shades that I love reaching for in general, so I did reach for it, like I said, 6 times just because I love this shade, although I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to hit pan on it. But yeah, that is the shade there, and I have really been enjoying working on it. but again, I didn't really expect to pan on it in 1 month. So that is that shade. Let's move on to the next one. So next up we have the shade that came from my Amrezy palette, and I was working on the bright pink in this palette called Reezy, and that is where I was when I introduced it. I basically hadn't used this eyeshadow at all, but as you can see there, that is where I am now. So I was able to pan on this eyeshadow, which I am super excited about. I wasn't really sure if I would actually be able to pan on this in 1 month, but this is one of the eyeshadows that I was focusing on because I know that the Anastasia pans aren't too deep, so I really wanted to kind of challenge myself and see if I could pan on it, and I did do so. So that it means that I have 2 pans for this finale. Spoiler alert, the next one isn't a pan. So 2 additional pans in my total pans for the year, which is really good. And in total I reached for this shade 7 times before hitting pan on it, and I hit like a baby pan in the 7th use. And if you saw my everything that I hit pan on in 2020 video, you saw the baby pan in there, and then I did reach for it an 8th time just to expand that pan. So that is where I'm standing with this eyeshadow right now. And as you can see, that is the bright pink shade swatched out on my hand. I did reach for this tons, I mean 7 uses, so for a lot of looks. And the looks that I did reach for this was mainly kind of pink focused. I did make this shadow the main kind of element of my look most of the times that I wore it. It's such a stunning look, and I think I have maybe 1 or 2 looks to share with you at the end of this video. But also, if you do look back at any of my videos in December, you will see a lot of kind of pink focused eye looks, and that was all using this eyeshadow. So I have really been enjoying working it, and it was a surprising enjoyable eyeshadow to work on. I really did enjoy reaching for it. Then the final eyeshadow that I had to work on in my December update was a shadow from my Metropolis palette by Natasha. The shade that I rolled in is Azoic, I think it is, and that is where it was when I first rolled it in. I had used this a few times because I do really like this shade, but it is one of those cream to powder formulas, so usage isn't really something that shows up really easily in this shade. And I'm going to show you where I am now. The shade is down here in the corner, and as you can see, I obviously don't have pan, and I don't really have much usage on it either. I actually only used this an additional 2 times in the last month, and that is again because I have been panning my Pan palette, and I really wanted to focus on that because we are getting towards the end of that project, and I have a few transition shades in there that I reached for. So this was just one that I didn't kind of put my effort into this month, and again that was because I basically knew that I wouldn't be able to pan on this in 1 month's time. So that is the final shadow. My usage on this wasn't great, but it is a beautiful shade, and I know that I will get good use of this overall anyway. It wasn't just something that I focused on in this past month. So those were the 5 eyeshadows that I was working on in the last month, and I did hit pan on 2 of them, which was this blue right here and the pink right here, which I'm super excited about. I wasn't expecting to hit an additional 2 pans in the final month, but I'm going to jump into all my stats in a second. But I just want to go through some of the looks that I did first, because I always like doing that as well. So I am going to scooch over to the side so I can put up the pictures right here, and I'm just going to pull them up on my phone. So the first look that I have right here is actually a look where I was using quite a few shades from this color story. So my crease color is actually one from my palette. It is kind of the purple shade in there, and then what I decided to do was take the shade Davina, which is this purpley shade in my outer corner, and that is kind of the deepening actually, you can see. And then for my lid color, I actually decided to mix the blue and the pink, which created this kind of purpley blue, which I really enjoyed. I feel like that was a way to tone down both of the shades, and I really enjoyed that combination. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make that combination a lot since I had pan on the blue so quickly this month, and I did actually enjoy the pink on its own as well. But I did love this look, and I feel like that was a really clever way to get use out of these super bright shades. On the other side of the spectrum, the next look I have is this one, and it's just a kind of eye look because I was just playing around with makeup. I didn't do my full face, but in here again I'm using like most of the shades in my color story, apart from the shade from the Metropolis palette. So I do have the Sultry shade in my inner crease, and then I'm moving that into the Davina shade in my outer crease, and I kind of did like a winged out look. And then on my lid I have Pegasus in my inner kind of lid, and then I have the pink shade Reezy on the outer half, and that is kind of all winged out, and I loved how this look came out. And then for my lower lash line, which you can't really see really well in this picture, I did put the pink and the blue shimmer shades again, just to mirror the top. The next two looks are both looks where I had the pink shade kind of in focus. The first one here is one where I topped it with one of my Cleona shades in the shade Spotlight. It's actually quite similar to the shade in the Reese palette. It just has a bit more of a blue shift to it. It doesn't really show up that well in the picture because my lighting wasn't the best, but I really enjoyed this look. And then for my crease and outer corner, again I used that purpley shade from my Pan palette in my crease, and I believe I used the deep brown, which is kind of like a chocolatey brown, in my outer corner to create that look. So I didn't actually use Davina in this look because I wanted to create something that was slightly bit more neutral, and that is the first pink look that I did. And then the next one is a bit kind of smokier. In this look I used I think the purpley shade again from my Pan palette in my crease. That was like a go-to thing that I did over the last month. And then I did actually use Davina, that dark shade, in my outer corner again, kind of fading into Reese. And that is kind of basically that look. And I just paired that with a really deep lip that I had in my Shop My Stash. Then the final look that I have to show is the one that I did for New Year's Eve. I really love how this look came out, and the only shade I'm actually using for my Pan Those Eyeshadows in here is the shade Seltzer. I used that as my kind of transition blending out shade, and then for my lid I used the Untamed shade from my Sultry palette. I love that eyeshadow, and I used that kind of as a base. And then for my inner corner and my lid I used some of my Cleona shades. I believe I used Chandelier as the main color, but I did top a little bit of Corrosion as well in the center of my lid, and that is basically the look. I think for my inner corner I used the shade Luxe, and I did also kind of tap that up like in this area as well, so you can see the sparkle there. But I love this look, and it was something quite different for me, but I felt really glam on New Year's wearing this. And as you can see, I styled my hair very similarly to as I did on New Year's. So that is basically the end of my last round of my Pan Those Eyeshadows. So let's just talk about some stats. I'm going to start by talking about all of the eyeshadow pans that I hit this year in Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I actually hit 32 pans through this project alone. Overall in 2020 I did hit 53 eyeshadow pans, so majority of the pans actually came from this project, with, like I said, 32 new pans. Last year I actually went through all of my eyeshadow palettes and I think showed you them or just talked through them, but this year I won't do that. If you want to see all of my pans, you can go back to my playlist and watch all of my previous updates, but I will leave a list down in my description box with just all of the pans that I hit in order, in case you find that interesting, so you can see that down below. But yeah, I'm really excited about hitting so many pans this year, and 32 pans in 12 months means that I hit about 2.66 pans a month, which is really good, and I'm very proud of that number. So let's just jump into my actual numbers. When it comes to my pan percentage, at the end of 2019 I had 36 pans, and that meant a pan percentage of 9.73%, because at that point I had 370 eyeshadows in my collection. Since then, my eyeshadow palette collection has grown quite a bit. I'm currently, or at the end of December, I was currently at 543 eyeshadows, and my final amount of pan for 2020 was 83, which means that I hit a pan percentage of 15.29, and with that I did actually surpass my panning goal, which was hitting 15% pan percentage in 2020, and I think I surpassed that with 2 pans. I was actually expecting to go quite a bit over, but I did receive and I did actually buy quite a few palettes in the month of November and December, which obviously lowered my pan percentage, so I had to push a bit more to get that final goal hit. But I'm really proud that I did actually get over the 15% mark. In my introduction I will talk a bit more about this, but my percentage has gone down a bit because I did declutter a few palettes, and I also did get a few palettes for Christmas, and the palettes I get for Christmas I always add in to start the next year rather than December, because obviously I don't have any time working on those palettes in 2020 or in that year. So I will talk a bit more about that in my introduction for my 2021 Pan Those Eyeshadows, but as of the end of 2020 I did hit my goal of 15%. And with that, you guys, I think it's time to wrap up this project. It's been such a blast doing this, and I am so excited to introduce this again in 2021. So as I said, that will be my next video going up on the 4th. And also I do want to make a little shout out, because I did say yesterday that Alexi did post her introduction for her 2021 Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I'm so happy to see her do this project again, because she is obviously the creator of this project and she has been doing it for the last 2 years, and I've been kind of secretly waiting for her to start it again. So I'm thrilled to see her do it for 2021, and please go and check her out. She has 2 years of playlists, I think in 2017 and 18, doing this project, and then obviously she started a new one now in 2021. So please go and check her out, and also I will leave as always some creators down below who's also done this in 2020, and of course I will include a new list in my 2021 project as well, but you can stay tuned for that in my next video. But that, you guys, was it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and like I said, also please consider subscribing if you are new here, and other than that, I really hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye guys.